Welcome to Voices of the Village, your global audio window into the last 30 days of sustainable development and rural transformation. Across continents, farmers, communities, governments, and scientists have faced hard questions and imagined new solutions. Today, we take you through 10 real developments that capture the pulse of rural change, the threat, the innovation, the battle with climate, and the belief that better land creates better lives. We begin our journey in India, where a new peer reviewed study in Nature Sustainability triggered alarm among environmental researchers and development practitioners. It shows that India's forests and grasslands are being invaded by exotic plant species at a globally unprecedented rate. These are shrubs, creepers, and weeds no one planted, but which find a way into disturbed ecosystems, crowding out native plants, destroying fodder bases, and reducing food and resource availability for millions of rural Indians. Lantana and Cromolena took looks harmless on camera, but together they now affect landscapes relied upon by 144 million people and millions of livestock. Scientists are calling for a national mission to monitor invasions, restore degraded lands, and empower local communities through ecological stewardship. The issue is no longer just environmental, it's social, economic, because when the forest stops giving, the village feels it first. Our second story today takes us to rural England, where wheat fields that once defined the countryside are now a symbol of climate fragility. The United Kingdom has just recorded one of its worst grain harvests in modern history, with yields of wheat, barley, and oats collapsing because of extreme heat and prolonged drought. Farmers, even with heavy mechanization and advanced agronomy, have suffered losses estimated at 800 million pounds. Climate change here is not a graph, it is a number on an invoice. The absence of grain in silo, the disbelief of a farmer who has never seen a harvest like this. Local agronomists say the answer lies in deeper soil restoration, crop diversification, and treating agriculture as a climate adaptation system, not just a food production system. It is striking that a country with strong institutions and infrastructure can be humbled by this sky. From Europe to we return to India, where the conversation around rural development often begins with something very simple: infrastructure. The government of Andhra Pradesh has approved 904 crore rupees for development in 29 villages located in its capital region. These are not glamorous projects, but they are life changing ones. Tap water lines in hamlets that have relied on borewell for decades, modern sewerage system replacing open drains, paved internal roads where children walked through monsoon mud, and street lighting that allows women to move safely. Development is sometimes an idea, sometimes a debate, but here is it: concrete, pipe, and bitumen. Villages like Inavalu and Mandamam are set to become examples of how peri-urban spaces can integrate with modern planning while retaining their rural identity. Our next story takes us deep into the Amazon basin, into Para, a region historically tied to deforestation and cattle ranching. Here, a quiet revolution is emerging from the fields. Ranchers are experimenting with regenerative grazing, planting native shade trees, producing cocoa between cattle allies, and using methane reducing feed technologies. Livestock these they are now carry traceable electronic tags so their origin is known, allowing legal herds to be distinguished from those linked to illegal clearing. It is an example of how policy pressure, market incentive, and local innovation can turn extractive land use into restorative business models. As one farmer explained, when the soil gives back, so does the farm. The Amazon may still be at risk, but hopes now wears boots and works at dawn. From tropical rainforests we shift to rocky hills and vineyards of southern France, where drought has rewritten the landscape. In the region of Caribbeans, rainfall has fallen by 37% since 1959 and rivers that once sang through the ravines now run silent. Local wine producers are watching their vines die, and with them the heritage of a rural society that has descended on viticulture from centuries. Wildfires like the one local called Auger has eaten through thousands of hectares. In response, villagers and scientists are building soil moisture preservation systems, recharging aquifers, rediscovering old ecological knowledge, and reimagining livelihood beyond wine alone. It is a portrait of resilience, a community forced to evolve by the kind of climate extremes they once read about in academic papers. Across Europe, the story of agriculture is also undergoing transformation. More than 300 farms across 60,000 hectares are now part of a climate smart agriculture initiative promoting cover cropping, crop rotation, and reduced tillage. Backed by private companies and aligned with European Commission rural development frameworks, here sustainability meets economics. Farmers report consistent yields, improved soil fertility, and increased profitability after years of soil degradation. It reveals a powerful truth: sustainable farming is not a sacrifice, it is a business model for the future. Government and private sector actors are finally speaking the same language: climate risk is financial risk. The next story brings us to the frontiers of global environmental governance. The United Nations Environment Programme has recognized three new World Restoration flagships led by indigenous and local communities in Australia, Canada, and South Africa. These projects restore forests, grasslands, and wetlands using traditional ecological knowledge and community labor. They create food systems that are both productive and regenerative, and they acknowledge something the development could sometimes forget. Indigenous communities have been practicing sustainability long before the term was invented. Recognition by UN elevates their work as models of how climate mitigation, cultural knowledge, and rural livelihood fits together. Meanwhile, in India, in Rajasthan, hosted a powerful meeting of minds, a 3-day national workshop on sustainable rural livelihood in Udaipur. Unlike a conference where experts speak and farmers listen, this one flipped the script. Farmers themselves demonstrated breakthroughs: drip irrigation in desert soils, dragon fruit plantation grown by women's self-help groups, and dairy models that rely on a local fodder systems rather than imported inputs. Participants from the Ministry of Rural Development explored ways to scale successful models across India through value chains, financial inclusion, and capacity building. Here, sustainability was intimate, not theoretical. A farmer unveiling her guava orchard and explaining how organic practices helped her double margin and reduce risk. The big lesson was that sustainable livelihoods are not adopted, they are lived. Just 1,000 kilometers away from Udaipur, IIM Visakhapatnam launched a capacity building program for 500 officers from Panchayati Raj and Rural Development departments. At first glance, a leadership course for government officers may not sound like rural transformation, but there are officials who decide how schemes reach villages. They will be trained in financial planning, digital platforms like eGram Swaraj and Samitva, data-driven decision-making, decentralized governance, and sustainable planning of village resources. Each officer will prepare a 6-month action plan for their jurisdiction, a rare marriage of training and implementation. If rural development is the building, rural governance is the foundation. Strengthen it and everything built upon it stands taller. Our final story is about partnership at scale. The Asian Development Bank and World Bank Group have announced a joint initiative focused on Pacific region, which includes some of the world's most climate vulnerable rural communities. The program aims to mobilize private capital for sustainable agriculture, rural infrastructure, food security, and climate resilient systems. Small islands and dispersed rural settlements are at the front line of climate disasters, yet their ability to raise investment is limited. By pooling institutional strength and bringing in private finance, ADB and WBG are experimenting with a model in which global money builds local resilience, where a coconut farmer on a coastal island becomes a beneficiary of an international financial architecture. It is a reminder that sustainability is no longer a project, it's a global negotiation. So, what do these stories add up to? They tell us that sustainable development is not a single movement but many. A farmer in Rajasthan discovers the power of drip irrigation, a cattle ranch in Para replacing deforestation with regeneration, a UN project elevating the voices that were ignored for too long. A British farmer staring at a dry field and calculating loss. Rural management today is shaped by climate shocks, ecological science, local innovations, and community wisdom. The world is warming, but so is the desire to adapt. From the Himalayan foothills to the Pyrenees, from the Amazon to Pacific, the idea of sustainability is held together by a shared insight. Wherever the soil is healed, the society finds a future. Thank you for listening to the Voices of the Village. In our next episode, we dive deeper into one of these stories with field interviews, scientific explainers, and policy perspective. Until then, remember that every field is a classroom, every seed is a hypothesis, and every farmer is a scientist testing how the world can survive. Thank you.